record button, and welcome. This is going to be an exciting journey today.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. I'm Pat. Welcome to Pat and Eileen's Travel Parties, or welcome back. We love having you with us, especially after we present, when we hope you'll allow Steve to add your face to our cocktail party, and we can schmooze and hear your questions, some more of your questions and your answers to each other's questions and your travel experiences. Thank you to Anup Mitra, our current supporter, who's sponsoring this trip and the next one to India. You might realize Anup Mitra has a little experience in India, and the following one as well. So thank you, Anup. Eileen and I, for those of you who don't know us, we're two authors. We've done over 100 trips together or with friends or family, and as I'm sure many of you have too. So we decided to share some of our best trips so far with you in our book, Rome, which is subtitled Mindful Adventures Across the Globe. I want to thank Carol for her question about ordering the book from Amazon. It's hard to find because there are a lot of books entitled Rome. So the answer is that you need to ask for Rome when you're Googling, just Rome, and put in one of our names.
ROAM, by the way.
ROAM, right? Or put in the subtitle, the beginning of the subtitle, just Rome Mindful. It's Mindful Adventuring Across the Globe, but you can just put in Rome Mindful or Rome Pat Williams or Rome Eileen Curtis, and it'll come up. We told Amazon we thought it was too expensive, and so they just lowered the price for the hardcover very substantially. So thank you. We're over the moon to learn that 2 magazines have just featured us out of the blue. One is Incandescent Women with an ink, I-N-K, Hope Katz Gibbs' wonderful magazine. And this one, it's called Eden. It's a yummy, artsy magazine, and there are 3 pages about our book in here. And this magazine, Eden, is very artsy and beautiful and expensive, but it's free online. So you might find it interesting. I'm going to start the PowerPoint in a moment that I have. Let's go here. You see that? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Nope, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Okay, let me go back.
Yeah, do share screen and then select.
All righty.
You'll have a little window.
Where's my share screen?
There we go.
Okay.
And slideshow.
From the beginning.
Yeah, click on slideshow.
Okay.
Right there, right above Eileen's picture there, and then from the beginning.
Okay.
There we go.
Now
Great.
this is, I already loaded this up for another show that we're doing on the Camino next week for the Shepherd Center. So this is just a reminder that we're 2 authors that had written previously books, Eileen about chamber tales and mine about working with seniors and other challenging situations. Look at that handsome guy on the cover of Say the Right Thing. And this is our book. Again, ask for it with the author name or the subtitle. This is the spread, some of the spread from Eden Magazine, the October issue. And this comes out of Incandescent Women Magazine. Just wanted to show you our excitement. So now we're ready. Let me stop sharing. Right, let's get our glasses together. I want to toast to our excitement and to Eileen, who's going to do the presentation, because she and I have traveled in Tuscany and Venice, but this is all hers. I haven't even been up there and I can't wait to go. So Eileen, andiamo.
Okay, andiamo, indeed. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I have a favorite quote by Goethe that describes my favorite country on earth, which is Italia. And he said, Italy is a universe of 1,000 worlds. And that is so true in the experiences that I've had wandering around the country. And we're going to visit a few of these tonight because even though they are all lakes in basically the same kind of geographic region, they're all different too. All right. Just a note, you might want to grab pencil and paper because there are going to be some things that maybe you'd like to copy down as we talk about various places. All right, so here we go. This is northern Italy, and you will see on the left Turin in the Piedmont. It sits at the northwest section of Italy. And we're going to move from Turin over to a place, if you see Novara and go a little bit north and a little bit right, you will see a white, it looks like a wrench. That is Maggiore. That'll be our first visit. From there, you go directly to the right and you will see another three-pronged piece of white, and that is Lake Como. And the third lake, the third big lake, Garda, if you come down to the southwest, southeast rather, you'll see Brescia. And next to Brescia is our third body of water. So that's the tour tonight. And we have some special surprises within that. All right, so if you're going to go to Lake Maggiore, I would suggest that you, can we move the screen?
You use the down button, the down arrow button on your keyboard.
Okay.
Is that doing it?
No, it's not.
Try it sideways.
Um,
Try the one that goes to the right, that arrows to the right.
no, nothing's moving there. Let me try new share.
How about if you just click the screen with your mouse?
Yeah, I tried the enter. Something's not, I've got a big white screen. Oh, here we go. Okay.
There we go.
All right. Whew. All right. This is Torino, otherwise known to the English-speaking world as Turin. It sits in the northwest corner, like I said, and it's a beautiful city. It's well visited by the Europeans, not so much by Americans, but it is considered one of their favorite cities. It's very Frenchified atmosphere. It has wide boulevards and palm trees and Baroque architecture, and it has the French Alps sitting at its back door. It's beautiful, and it's well known for several things, chocolate being one, so who doesn't love that? It's home to the story of the Shroud of Turin, which in Christian mythology or ideology purports to have a picture of Christ on a piece of cloth. And in 2006, it was host to the Winter Olympics. And I was very lucky to get to go there. We watched a hockey game in the early stages. It was between the US and Sweden. And we came away a bit gloomy because we had lost 1-0. But we found out later that Sweden would go on to win the gold cup at the Olympics. So we didn't feel so badly, but we had a good time in Turin. So this would be a base that you could start from, and then you can go to the east. It's about an hour-and-a-half drive over to Maggiore. And we're going to see where we're heading now. Hopefully this is going to work. Okay. So we were leisurely making our way up to Lake Maggiore. We had time to spare, and we saw, as we entered the town of Gignese, a sign for an umbrella museum. And this sounded so quirky that we just had to see it. So in we went, and on the ground floor, they had about 150 examples of parasols and walking sticks and umbrellas. On the second floor, they had a history of the umbrella makers. Back in the 19th century, some of them became apprentices to someplace, came back and founded about 170 dynasty families making umbrellas. They actually have captured the market in Europe and in South America for umbrellas. So it was kind of fun to see. We still had a little time, so we were again leisurely making our way over to Maggiore when we saw a sign for Lake Orta, and we said, well, let's just check it out. And oops, oh dear, there we go. Okay, Lake Orta sits in the bottom of a series of hills. It's just a precious jewel of a lake. It's about 8 miles long, and it comes with this fabulous island on which is an ancient monastery. So we decided to have lunch on the lakeside and just took in the view. It was the first of the lakes that we would see, and we just thought it was gorgeous. I'd love to go back to Lake Orta sometime. But we did have an appointment with our lodgings over in Maggiore, so off we went. Here is Lake Maggiore. You see little Orta on the left side, but the big lake, Maggiore, is the second largest lake in Italy. It drifts northward. It actually goes into Switzerland at one point. And so we were coming out of Gignese, which is the little red point right there. And we were heading to Pallanza, where our lodgings were. Pallanza is a wonderful, elegant town, Roman origin, and a popular tourist resort. And we still giggle over an incident. We had a dinner in town that evening, that first evening. We were with friends, and one of them asked for a translation of a menu item. And the waiter replied, mice. Well, you can just imagine all the heads swivel to the waiter and like, what? Well, he was trying to say maize, which is corn, and that's how they describe it in Italian. There is a great story about Maggiore that I thought I would share with you. In 1936, a Bugatti Type 22 Brescia Roadster, built in 1925, was sunk in the lake by employees of a Zurich architect when the Swiss customs officials investigated whether he had paid taxes on the car. So the Bugatti was attached to an iron chain that would make it possible to recover it once the investigation was over. Well, here's the thing. Maggiore is a very deep lake. It's 600 feet down at some point. And the chain corroded. And so the car dropped to the lake bottom, where it was only rediscovered in 1967. So that's Maggiore. Anyway, the lodgings that we went to were just incredibly gorgeous. It's probably one of the top 2 or 3 places that I have ever stayed. This is Villa Rusconi Clerici. You can see the lawn with the lake in front and the mountains across the way. Behind here were the 3 little apartments that were gorgeous. In between these 2 points, there is a gorgeous rose garden. To the left of the scene, there is a gazebo where you could take your morning coffee and commune with nature. And in the lake to the right and to the left as well, there is an island, and the island belonged to Toscanini. So we were very enchanted with the property, and it was made more so when the industrialist husband and wife invited us over for afternoon tea. So it was a very charming experience. But we did have to leave this beautiful haven and go play tourist. So the next day, we went to the Botanical Gardens, Villa Taranto. This trip to Maggiore was just a series of superlatives. This is the most beautiful botanical garden I have ever been in, and I've been in a lot of them. The dahlias and the roses and the azaleas came in huge sizes. There was a meta sequoia that was supposed to be extinct, but it's flourishing here. There were woodland paths, hills and dales to travel, and it was just so luxuriant. So we loved the Villa Taranto. Um, the next thing that we did the next day, we wanted to go to see Stresa. It is the most famous resort town on Lake Maggiore, and it came with lots of villas. This is the Villa Pallavicino. Um, Everywhere we went, there were these gorgeous gardens. It's on the same latitude as the England, and so beautiful gardens in both countries. This Villa Pacino had a second reason for fame, and that was that it has a zoo. It had black swans, rare species of duck, zebras, peacocks, and it had this little guy named a Bennett Kangaroo. It's a small version of the kangaroo family, and they live in large trees, so we were fascinated to see that. Stresa also has a bobsled roller coaster and other botanical gardens. So it's a very interesting town to see. We stopped for lunch there at the Grand Hotel des Îles Borromean, which is a hotel on the waterfront that Ernest Hemingway used to stay at. We were able to dine al fresco under palm trees on the waterfront. Very lovely. And then in the afternoon, the boat ramp was there. The boats were going over to the Borromean Islands. These are 3 islands that sit outside Stresa. They were founded or bought actually by an Italian aristocratic family, the Borromeos, back in the 16th century. And of the 3, one is a small fishing village, not touristy. We decided not to go there, but we went on to the Isola Bella, and that is famous for its 10 terraced gardens. Unfortunately, the palace that had once begun there remains unfinished. So we had a short time there, and then we boarded the boat and went on to the Isola Madre, which was a stunner. This palace, although it's uninhabited, is splendidly outfitted, and it has the most unusual ground floor room that I will remember always. This is an underground fantasy. Everything is built of shells, and they call it the sea room. I just thought it was exquisite. So after that, another day we decided to go over to Switzerland. And you know, I love Switzerland, but it was interesting. They had the same languid beauty and lake, but the vibes were so different. So we were happy to go back to the Italian side, just a lot more vivacious. And of course, settle into our Villa Rusconi Clerici for cocktails and views. The perfect ending to a perfect several days there. We loved Maggiore. I think it was my favorite. So we're going to travel on now from Maggiore over to Como. And let me give a map again, because I want you to see that there, it looks like a wrench again, 3 prongs water. Como sits at the bottom side, the town of Como. And in the middle, you'll see Bellagio and Varenna. So those are the 3 towns we're going to talk about here. If you're going to Lake Como, you would want to probably fly into Milan, and you can take a train directly up to Como from there. The Huffington Post called Como the most beautiful lake in the world for its microclimate and environment. It has been a popular retreat for aristocrats and wealthy people since Roman times. Some of today's glamorous inhabitants include John Kerry, Madonna, George Clooney, Sylvester Stallone, Richard Branson, and once upon a time, Johnny Versace. My sister and I did take the train after a slightly hysterical plane routing. I was supposed to fly out of Dulles. She lives in New Jersey. We would meet at Newark and fly on together. Well, my flight out of Dulles was an hour late. I missed the plane. They routed me to Amsterdam and then down to Milan. So it was 4 hours late, but I did find my sister. And off we went on the train into Como. Como itself, the town of Como, is again a lovely place. It has wonderful shops, churches, cable car, the waterfront, of course. We had to figure out how we were going to get to Varenna, which is where we were going to stay. You could take the ferry, but it would be 2 hours long. So we opted for a cab drive because it was late at night, late in the day. And it was a 50-minute cab ride up to Varenna. Now, why Varenna instead of Bellagio? They're twins. They sit almost at the same angle there. Bellagio is the very famous resort town. Varenna is about less expensive by half, I will say, with the same gorgeous views and the same beautiful town features. So we settled into Varenna. Rick Steves actually said that Varenna is his favorite place in Lake Como, and I do admire the findings of Rick Steve. So we had a B&B that had a deck with a gorgeous view. And the next day, we took ourselves across on a ferry over to Bellagio. So this area is a caldera, and that means that everything is uphill when you're going away from the lake. So we climbed our way across town. The shops were great and the views were even better. Nancy and I sipped champagne on a neoclassical terrace, enjoying the surrounding blue of the lake and sky and the twittering of the birds. As somebody said, if you're not going to Lake Como for relaxation, you really shouldn't go. So we were enjoying the relaxation, and in the late afternoon, we would run back to our B&B, grab some bubbly, sit on the deck, and enjoy relaxing with the view. It was great. So the next day, oh, let me show you. I wanted to show you, that's Como. Isn't that beautiful? And it gets better. This is Varenna, which is the small sister to Bellagio, where we stayed. This is the lake itself. And this is the Grand Bellagio, full of Baroque architecture and grandiose buildings. So we left Como. We're heading now to Lake Garda. Again, it's about an hour and 45 minutes drive from Milan over to Garda. And it's not as big as Maggiore, but it's big. So when we got to Sirmione, which sits at the bottom of the lake, we stopped there for lunch. It was a lovely town. It's known for its thermal baths and its beach. It has a cable car. It has a medieval castle. And we had lunch in an olive tree grove. So it was very welcoming to the whole experience of Garda. Then after lunch, we drove up the eastern side. Our plan was to find a lodging about halfway up and spend the night. And we found this little town called Malcesine. You know, sometimes what sounds good in a travel guide is even better once you get there. I loved Malcesine. Here it is. It was a cross between a medieval town and a beautiful fishing village. Hugging the lake, it came with a warren of medieval alleyways full of cozy restaurants and shops. Our hotel, the Marco Polo, was located on the Piazza del Porto, which was the piazza just in front of the waterfront here. There was it was decorated at the time by a boat in full sail, and the ferry was coming in on an hourly basis. So they had tables set around the piazza, and people were drinking their vino and their birra. It was a beautiful setting for having your drinks as we watched the sun sink over the mountains. Um, when we were checking out the next day, the concierge asked, "Why are you only staying a day? Normally people come and stay several days." And all we could say was, "We didn't know." I could have stayed in Malcesine a week, I think. I loved it. So moving on, we went up to the headwaters of the lake, which is Riva del Garda. It's a place made famous for its windsurfing. Um, it also has a beautiful Baroque church and a fortress. We didn't stop to linger though. We wanted to make our next appointment before dark, and we had a long way to drive. So we turned east, and then we went up and up and up into huge monster alpine switchbacks. We were racing the sunset at this point, and we breathed a sigh of relief when we came to our turnoff at Vish. We were practically there, so we thought. Good tidings for the crow, but it turned out we had to plow through another 20 minutes of switchbacks before we got to our golf hotel. There it is. And so you'll notice that things don't seem quite right for an Italian place. And the golf hotel is in one of the highest passes in these Alps. Although the Dolomites on a map still say Italy, they really have a Tyrolean cast in their architecture and their food, and obviously in their dress with the waitress in the dirndl. So our hotel was a kind of a mix of all of this. We had a Bavarian styled architecture and a dirndl waitress, but we were eating pizza for dinner. They also made a hot chocolate that was so good. It was just like in Sicily. It was dark and thick like pudding. I loved it. So what are the Dolomites? They are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And there they are. They consist of 22 peaks of steep granite caps that make a very unique skyline. There were lots to do in these mountains. They have several open air museums for history buffs. People will visit the Dolomites to climb the Via Ferrate, the iron paths, which are protected paths through the minefields that were created during World War II. And these mountains also have a lot of long distance footpaths. Gardeners love to trek among the rare flora and fauna that are found here. And the footpaths are numbered according to difficulty, 1 through 8. And the paths come equipped with huts for the walkers. So we had settled in for a week of explorations. One day we were on a walk when we heard someone piping music, and that seemed strange. When we turned the corner, the music was coming from the cowbells hung around the beasties' necks. Every time they bent their head to chew some cud, they sent the bells ringing across the mountains. It was a perfect scene stealer. Another day, we rode a cable car to the very top of one of these mountains. And underneath us, we were passing a tilting golf course. People were playing golf on the mountain. The showstopper for me in the Dolomites was Lake Carezza. And this is just a picture of it. I couldn't find an actual picture of the beauty of this lake, but there is a certain kind of algae that grows there, causing the lake to look like an acre of liquid rainbow. And many people claim it is the most beautiful lake in the world, Lake Carezza. So the Dolomites stretch across several provinces in Italy. There's Trentino, there's the Alto Adige, and the South Tyrol. One day we went into the city of Bolzano. It has a spacious pedestrian old town, and it sits about 60 miles northwest of Venice. The The greater metro area of Bolzano has about 250,000 inhabitants, and it's considered a bridge between the north and south because it combines the Italian and German-Austrian cultures. The city has a few more claims to fame. In the 2014 version of annual rankings of quality of life in Italian cities, Bolzano was named #1. But we were there for a different reason. We were there to see a museum, an Una museum, perhaps the world's only museum devoted to one item, and here it is. This is Oetzi Man, the Ice Man. He was discovered about 25 years ago in a snowdrift here. Being nicely packed in ice for millennia allowed the scientists to determine that he was 45 at this point. Oetzi is the natural mummy of a man who lived between 3400 and 3100 BCE. He's believed to have been murdered. They found an arrowhead in his left shoulder, which would have caused a fatal wound back then. But his clothes and tools are still in perfect condition. And Oetzi has apparently redrawn the lines for paleo research. Well, as we were driving these mountains, we became vaguely aware that the people here were not like any others. The crazy road signs were one of our clues for that something was going on. So one day we drove into the nearby town of Vigo de Fassa, also called Vish, and we had stumbled into our own alpine Shangri-La. 97% of the people in this region hail from an ancient race and speak Ladino, a tongue that one assumes derived from Latin. It exhibits similarities to the Swiss Romansh. About 30,000 people in Switzerland, Austria, and in 54 Italian municipalities still speak Ladino today. It's not to be confused, by the way, with Ladino, which is an old Sephardic language. Vish has a museum dedicated to the Ladino speakers, and we got to tour it. Lots of pictures and lots of artifacts. The people appear to favor light coloring and have an agrarian heritage, and a lot of colorful costumes. It was a very quaint set of outliers to meet the Ladino speakers. So that is my tour of the Lake Districts. I hope that you have found some that you think would be particularly nice to visit. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and invite questions and comments.
Eileen, I have a question. What would be a good amount of time to leave for a trip such as this one?
Sure, I was thinking about that, and depending upon how leisurely or how quickly you want to run through things, you probably want to leave a day of travel in between each of the 3 lakes, and there's probably 2 to 3 days worth of interesting things to entertain one in each of those. So, we're looking at probably 2 weeks minimum.
Okay,
All right. And so now's the time to either raise your hand or type in a question into Q&A. You could also type into comments. I think I can keep tabs on that, but
well,
I'd love to hear from the
I wanted
audience.
to thank him for serving as our tech expert. I've referred him to every conference and organization and meeting in the country because he's so nice to work with, and he does such a good job. And it's a whole desperately needed area. So thank you, Steve.
Okay, great. Let's see. Well, it looks like Lewis, let's see. Janet Cochran, when were you there? Asks, when were you there, Eileen?
Sure. So my presentation covered several trips. I was at Maggiore probably around 2006. I was in the Dolomites about 4 years ago. And I was with my sister at Como probably, wow, close to 20 years ago.
And what time of year?
Fall for almost all of them. Except, no, I should say Como we did in the spring. The other two were in the fall. Good time, a wonderful time to be there. September is a lovely month in Italy.
Let's see, Louise has her hand raised. Louise, did you want to ask a question? Hey, Louise. Hello? Okay, while we're waiting to see if Louise gets on, let's see. Well, Barbara Smith, I guess you've been in the fall, but Barbara Smith asked, what's the best time of year to travel? And Louise both asked, what's the best time of year to travel to the region?
And I will come back and say spring or fall.
Okay.
And Italy in summer is not my favorite time, although these the northern strip here is going to be relatively cooler. The trouble with summertime, especially in Como though, is that the crowds are just intense. It would be hard to book lodging unless you went probably 6 months to a year out. And if crowds are not your thing, you might prefer shoulder season.
Okay, and Patricia Gould has her hand raised. Patricia, if you want to unmute yourself.
I was wondering about not being able to go to La Bella Isola. We toured it about 10 years ago, and a member of the Borromeo family actually took us through the entire castle and the gardens. So I don't know if something happened to it and it was destroyed, but it was absolutely beautiful. That's my comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we got to see the outside, but there didn't seem to be any way to see the building itself.
I have a couple of questions for you, Eileen, from Q&A. What's the best way to get around? Car rental, train, bus?
So in Maggiore, we had a car, and I would suggest a car because the points of interest were spread out. In Como, you don't need a car. The ferries will take you everywhere, and the train will connect you from Como down to Milan, which would be your gateway. You definitely need a car in the Dolomites. And you need a good driver. The roads were amazingly difficult. I happen to be one who is has a tendency to car sickness, and so I don't like to be a backseat passenger. And we were with another couple, and he was just taking the turns so quickly. I made him stop and get out of the car and switch with me. I don't mind a turn when I'm the driver.
We have some language questions from Richard and Jude and from Alice. Did you find English spoken in most of these locations? Did most of the Italians you encountered speak English, and were you able to communicate? Were you able to communicate in Italian?
Okay, yeah. So I would say Lake Orta, not so much. It's kind of off the beaten tourist path. Maggiore, Stresa, certainly you can find English. In Pallanza, some. In Como, definitely English. In the Dolomites, not really. Fortunately, I guess, I had been so charmed by all things Italian. Yes. I took language lessons for several years, so I became our arbiter of trying to find out where the next road was, or where we could have a good lunch, or things of that sort. My basic Italian got us through.
What about the food? What are the most delicious meals you had up there?
Oh, well, let's see. The fish in Maggiore in Polenta was fabulous. They have a lake fish there that is really yummy. I forget its name. Starts with a D. And then in Como, food just wasn't the big deal. The views were, and the waterfront were the deal. In the Dolomites, actually, the food that I remember from the Dolomites was the pizza, because they made a big deal of the pizza they served in the hotel where we usually had dinner. They loved their margarita pizza, which was named after the queen, who was the wife of the Italian king who was assassinated in the early 20th century. So Margarita was her name, and pizza margarita is the standard over there. But I did mention the hot chocolate. The hot chocolate, that I remember.
They did.
Let's see, Mary Dunbar has her hand raised. Mary?
Hi, Mary.
Let's see. If you unmute yourself. If it's not by mistake.
Yeah. Is there a Zoom? Are all the people on the screen, or are we just seeing Eileen and Pat?
Steve, you ready to open up?
Yeah, sure. That's a great opportunity, Mary. I'm going to use you as the first one that I'm going to bring on. And if you would like to, Karen Toman's got her hand raised, so I'm going to bring her on. But if you would like to come over and we can kind of wrap up our gathering with all those that want to be visible, I'll bring you over to panelists. So just raise your hand by clicking the button at the bottom of your screen that says raise hand, and I'll bring you over.
While he's doing that, while he's opening up our cocktail party, throwing open the doors, I want to again thank Anoop Mitra with Cruise Planners and American Express for helping to support these next 3 programs. So there.
And I wanted to give a shout out to Mary and Ted Hartz, because I've traveled 2 of these 3 lakes with these guys. And Ted probably has many, many more pictures of these beautiful places than I do. But thank you for the memories we created together.
Great.
Can't hear you. Unmute.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Maggiore was fabulous. And you know, the gardens that we visited, which you first talked about, were I would agree the best that I've ever seen anywhere in the world. They
Yeah.
were just fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit rainy the day that we were there, so everything had these little droplets of water and so the photography in a cloudy situation with all of the water was just made it
Jeffrey, come see Ted and
absolutely
Mary.
beautiful.
Yeah, and the most
Yeah.
beautiful dahlias I have ever seen.
I know, the dahlias.
Yeah,
were-
they were
Incredible.
literally 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Mhm.
were, you know, I had to look up quite a bit to see them, and huge, you know, probably 10 to 12 inch across blooms of all different varieties. It's just incredible.
There we go. Got it.
So Mary and Ted, did you have any special favorite foods?
Special.
Oh, gee.
Where's Ted?
You covered
Oh,
the highlights very well. Gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Uh,
Lots of fish.
Yeah, I was thinking in the Dolomites when we were there, we sort of took a side trip off to into Slovenia and went to
Mm.
Yes,
you know,
to
Lake Bled,
Lake Bled.
which I
Oh,
I did go to Lake Blake.
incredible, incredibly beautiful lake.
right.
Took the
Yes,
boat out to the island and up to the church that's at the top of the,
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was
But
wonderful.
the Dolomites were great as we were doing a lot of walking around, the cowbells were really something, because the cows were way off in the distance, and yet you would hear them. We would walk down to where they were, and it was gorgeous.
And I did love Malcesine, especially,
Oh yeah.
that you already talked about. Oh, that was beautiful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Who has been to one of these lakes or more? Anyone? Love to hear your story.
Karen, can you unmute?
Well,
I didn't know.
my experience has been flying into Milan and then immediately leaving for Tuscany, where we spent our time 2.5 weeks touring. I can't remember the name of the town we stayed. This has been 20 years ago now. Can't remember the name of the town we stayed at, but we would take these day trips to Florence and various places, which was wonderful. I stayed at Lake Como overnight. I really didn't get a chance to see any of this. It's unfortunate. I would like to do that. My family is from Italy. I actually located some family members of my father's side, but they're in southern Italy. They're from Bari. I have actually been invited over there to go and visit and meet everybody. And of course, my Italian is rather rudimentary. But what piqued my interest also, I mean, I have so many questions, really. I would hog the whole thing, so I can't do that. But I found it very interesting that you said your Italian, your learned Italian helped you through with whatever you needed to do. I had a kind of an interesting story in the sense that my grandmother on my mother's side is from Palermo, but she came over to this country when she was a young girl and then married my grandfather. And so my aunt, my parents and aunts and all that were bilingual. They learned from my grandmother. Many years later, it turned out my aunt and my grandmother went back to visit. And when my aunt tried to speak Italian, no one would understand her.
She was
So
speaking,
I
she
had the
wasn't
impression they
speaking
must have these-
Siciliano.
Pardon?
She wasn't
I-
speaking Siciliano.
Well, yeah, I think maybe that was but they did go to Sicily because they tracked down my grandmother's sisters. So, but she said she can't, no matter what she did, she couldn't get herself understood, couldn't buy a ticket, couldn't do anything. So anyway, it made me think that there were many dialects, therefore. And I don't know that for sure. I've been invited by my father's family, but they're in Bari, which is
On the
the thin part of the boot up on top, and they say it's beautiful and all that. I have yet to get there. I don't know when I'm going, but I have been invited, and I'm rather in touch with that one relative that I found. So anyway, that's my story.
Well,
Carl,
I can't say it enough. I just love Italy, and
Me too.
in future programs, Tuscany is probably my very favorite of all the places in Italy. So we're going to do that. But the most exotic place in Italy for my money is Venice, which is its own program. And Sicily and the Amalfi Coast deserve programs as well. So in the course of these programs, we will hopefully get to visit all of
Carl
them.
Pearson.
Sounds good.
Let me just put in a pitch for the city of Milan. I had been there on business several times. You fly in the morning, go to a plant, have a tour, go to a restaurant, then move on to the next place. But everybody asked me, did you see the Last Supper? Did you go to La Scala? And I had to say no. And finally, on vacation, I did both of those things in Milan. I also drove in Milan, and I don't recommend driving in Milan.
Well, you brought up a point, Carl. I studied opera, and I've always wanted to see La Scala. I wanted to sing at La Scala. That wasn't going to happen, but it has always been closed when I've been in Milan. I have yet to get into that opera house, so it's on my list.
Eileen Carosio is here for her first time. Are you Italian? You have Italian background? Eileen
Just to unmute.
Carosio? Oh,
She has to
Is
unmute.
she muted? Yeah.
I'm not sure she hears us.
yeah, it doesn't look like it. It looked like, and Jim Dool.
Where's Jim? Where?
Unmute. I'm right here.
There you are.
Down the hill country.
Okay. Hello there.
Hi,
How
Pat.
are
Hi,
you?
Glenn. Hey, can you go with us when we go there so you can just show us around so we don't have to worry about where to go and where to stay?
Sure.
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that for anybody.
My computer froze. So hi, Pat, and hi, Eileen. Thank you very much. This has been great. I would love to travel with you guys. It's exciting, and the pictures and the stories and the places you went sounds great. And I can't wait till COVID is over and trips
Go.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. We echo that thought. Travel is such a wonderful experience, not only for the scenery. I mean, you learn new geography, but you learn ways in which to travel well. You meet people with distinct cultures, different ways of looking at things. It's just eye-opening, and I think it helps us frame us as, how will I say it, more informed human beings.
We're connected.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Anoop. Hi, Anoop.
Hi, Eileen. How are you?
I'm very
Good to see
well.
you
Good
too.
to see
Yes,
you.
it
Anoop
was.
is our sponsor for tonight's
It's good to
program.
see everyone. And I have attended one of your earlier presentations a few months ago live, but I've been watching the recorded ones later on. As all of you may have read on the question bar, that I'm a travel agent, and I'm very happy to support Pat and Eileen in this series of lectures, which are very, very informative. So let me share a breaking news first that just happened about an hour ago. CDC has lifted the no sail order today, allowing cruises to start again, and they're calling that conditional order. So CDC has announced information today that cruises will be allowed to sail once they prove to CDC that they can sail safely with COVID protection and the new protocols that they have come up with. So I'm hoping that in the next 30 to 60 days, cruise lines are going to start doing some test sailings around Caribbean, like 3-night, 4-night sailings, to show to CDC that they can sail with the new protocols, and they will test everyone and things like that. So hopefully travel will open soon by December, January.
Oh, that's wonderful news. Hey, Steve, I have an idea. I don't know if you can pull this off, but it would be really fun to put a survey up and see which of the lakes people would most like to visit.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. We'll keep it going until you get it in.
Let me see if I can. Do you know the names of the lakes off the top of your head?
Como.
Maggiore and Como.
Oh, hold on a sec. Let me look this up because I'm going to botch the spellings. It's going to be
I can spell it for you. Maggiore is the only hard one.
Okay, what is that?
Maggiore.
I want to go to the one with all the little fishing boats called Mal something.
Yeah.
Malcesine.
Malcesine.
Garda. Yeah.
I never
Isn't
heard
that
it.
beautiful?
By the way, travel is opening up. We've been to the West Coast 3 times.
Yeah, you are quite the frequent flyer, Carl. And you get to go to a beautiful place, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, so far most of the hotels and tours are asking for deposit, but they're still all refundable, or they're all applicable to a future trip. So we're kind of right in that mid stage right now.
Yeah.
You were talking about driving in Italy. I found that northern Italy, the driving was easy. But when we went down to the Amalfi Coast, I would highly recommend that you don't drive.
Don't drive
take
there.
a bus or other public transportation, because
you don't want to drive.
Horrendous.
Yeah, you're on a supposedly 2-lane road and you see this tour bus coming down a mountain at you. That's
right.
that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we
Beautiful.
were with Eileen and Marshall on that trip. It was a go ahead tours, I think it was. And we were glad that there was the bus driver because
He was
in
good.
some of the switchbacks he had to back up and go forward and back up to get around the actual bend. It was so he had the largest bus that was allowed on those roads, and I'm sure as hell glad I wasn't driving.
I don't mean
Actually,
to
I'm
interrupt.
glad Eileen wasn't driving too.
Both of us.
I don't mean
Wow.
to interrupt, but I had trouble with the poll. I couldn't select anything, and now it's off my screen.
Uh-oh.
Well, what is the name of that one lake that you wanted to visit, Eileen? I don't see that on the poll.
Carezza, the most beautiful lake in the world with the rainbow.
Oh, okay.
The boat.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I did the best I could.
No, that's fine. You're doing great. You're doing great, Steve. Yeah, Carezza is a little hidden jewel. People don't really know about it because not that many people go into the Dolomites.
Is there a way that you can activate the survey? I can't click a
I
radio.
had the same problem.
Oh, here, I'm sorry. I can't, once you launch it, you can't like relaunch it. But it's,
Well,
yeah,
there's a tie.
yeah, everybody's tied. Yeah.
I'll support the orange choices. They all look good to me.
Yeah. It would make a lovely trip to just do a Lake District tour and cross northern Italy. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Would the Viking have one or something?
Sorry.
Hiking?
Hiking. Okay, hiking. You can hike around all of the lakes. Probably the hikers, most serious hikers, probably go up to the Dolomites. And the gardeners want to see it because there are plants and animals there that you can't find anywhere else in the world. It's a really unusual region. The mountains are unusual too. I mean, they're not the slopes that you could ski on. These are just crags.
Are they rock climbing mountains?
Oh, I'm sure. I wouldn't want to do it though. But
I
your
was
son
gonna
might.
say, I think they went there on their honeymoon.
Her son and his bride got married with on top of a mountain, and the bride in the bridal dress climbed up.
Oh,
Bridal gown.
All I can say is that I'm glad I didn't see the Dolomites before they went.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They're huge.
And golf look treacherous.
Dave and I love water activity. You mentioned windsurfing. Is there very much, is the water too cold? Very much swimming or windsurfing or paddleboarding?
It reminded me of the lake in Costa Rica. I guess it has a lot of similar terrain. It's at the headwaters, and I really don't know much about the climate to say why specifically, but it has that reputation. Yeah.
So is Venice
Where
on
are we
the
going
agenda
next?
for a future tour?
Sorry, say again.
Is Venice on the agenda for a future tour?
Yes, in fact, I've saved Venice for our end of January program because I'm going to take you through a 4 seasons of Venice, but we're going to go to Carnival.
oh,
Carnival in Venice is just an amazing time.
Jeffrey.
Amazing.
Jeffrey, you can turn that on. And
Yeah.
We need our masks.
Yes, we have masks that are gorgeous, hanging on my dining room. I have a dining room that I call the Venetian room. We have masks from Murano and masks from Venice. Yeah. And Mary and Ted have been in Venice with us several times.
Yes, we have indeed.
Yeah, actually, the last time we went to Venice was on a tour with Run by Singers. So we were in Venice for a week of rehearsals and then sang in a concert in one of the great churches in Venice.
Yeah, so we've been to Venice several times and love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We went to Lake Garda basically a couple of days before we went into to Venice. So that was
That's right.
that was really nice. I forget the name of the town that's right at the base of Lake Garda. You showed it earlier. Yeah,
Simeone.
Simeone, right.
Simeone, right. Yeah.
That was a nice town. They're all nice. They all have these beautiful palm trees and lakes and mountains and gorgeous architecture and shops that are dazzling in their window displays. I mean, and then the food is so good. So.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
Time for dinner.
Yeah.
Where are we going next?
Ooh. In Pat?
We are going to India.
India, yes.
Yes, Eileen and I went to India just as a little side trip from our trip to Kathmandu to the monastery. And I wanted to, in fitting with our with our class in the monastery on Buddhist traditions of end of life, I wanted to go to Varanasi in India, where the bodies are cremated along the Ganges. And it's a very holy place. In fact, they say the holiest place in the world. And so Varanasi seemed to be on the map about this far from Kathmandu. And then, so we got ourselves there, but everything was via Delhi. So we went to Delhi. We did
A big
beautiful
C.
Golden Triangle. The driver specially arranged for us by Anoop. He's not allowed to promote himself at the party, but I will promote him here and say we had a wonderful driver. And so we were able to cover everything we wanted to see at the on that little side trip between our courses in Kathmandu. So, and I think everything in India was 100 times more than what I expected. And I think we can share that with you next month. And that's going to be on.
And Anoop, we hope that you will weigh in with some special information on.
I will, yeah, I will definitely be, I'll be happy to share my experience and some of my clients that I have helped go there and had a great time. You know, India should be on everybody's bucket list, definitely. And I'm happy to share my experience with you next time.
Good.
What Pat said is true. Everything in India is like an explosion in your head about what you've imagined things to be and what they actually are. It's just bigger than you can possibly imagine.
I worked in India in 1965, and the comparison then and now is amazing.
Is that right? No, that was
Where were you? In Delhi?
Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Visakhapatnam, Hyderabad.
Okay.
Good. I hope you can be with us, Carl.
Yeah.
And I think India is November 20th at 5:30, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just set up a registration link. I just added it into chat, but we'll email it out.
Good.
One of the things I wanted to mention along the way is we've stayed at various and sundry B&B like places that are run by groups called agriturismo. Like in Tuscany, there's like 2,500 places on this register of places to stay in Italy. And they vary from castles to farms. And we've stayed in many of those, a great variety of those, as have Marshall and Eileen. And I really highly recommend them. I think they give you a different flavor from, say, staying in a normal hotel or something. It's interesting.
I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
Are they only,
Or
are
that
they only in
directory.
Italy?
Sorry,
Are they only in Italy?
agriturismo.
They called them
In
that.
Spain, they're called
Agrit-
paradors, and they may have a certain, slightly different flavor, but again, it's a combination. In Spain, it's the combination of castles and monasteries and palace villas and such. But I don't know that I've seen farms in Spain, but you do have a lot of farms to offer in the Italian countryside.
Can you tell us the name again and spell it?
AGRI, Agra, Turismo, TURISMO.
Oh. Farm tourists.
Right, yes.
Right.
Okay.
We have a big fat booklet of
Yeah.
directory.
Oh, that's
of
cool.
Well, each province, like Tuscany, has their own directory.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can
I
order
guess the one we had was
that
Tuscany.
directory and take a look at all the
Yeah.
different things, and it's
RCI has a
wild.
few of them in their scope as well. Not a lot, but a few.
The one I remember probably is down near about 3 kilometers outside of Siena, which is a castle called Montella. It was built in the 1100s, and they have sort of converted that into a B&B, and you go in to the to the place. The walls are like 3 feet thick, and you get inside and you talk about silence. I mean, they could drop bombs outside and you would have no idea. It's
a very eerie silence.
Yeah.
And you can see the cathedral in Siena from that mountaintop fortress. It is called Montella, and it existed to warn the Sienas about the Florentine invasions.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But we'll be going to Tuscany. Siena is, if you saw a clock, Tuscany is in the middle where the hands would operate. I stayed there for a month doing language classes. Well, about 15 years ago now, I guess.
We were
And
saying that.
it's my favorite city in Tuscany, but all of Tuscany is drop dead gorgeous.
Mary took a cooking class in outside of Siena at a really nice place, a very interesting thing. And they went out and picked everything fresh and cooked it right there in the
Beautiful kitchen.
Yeah.
I remember the steaks. You had to have steak when you were in Tuscany. That was their thing. And every night we were with friends from Germany, and we were touring with them. And every night we would have a bottle of local wine, and well, we didn't have steak all the time, but when that thing came, it was huge. I remember that. It was very, very good.
Yeah. Well, I see that we've nicely passed our hour, and some of you are looking to go to dinner, I'm sure. But this has been so charming. Thank you for letting me share with you my love of the Lake District. You know, when I prepare these programs, for me, it's like traveling back through these places again. I get such pleasure of just thinking about all of the specifics that attended to the trip.
That was a lovely presentation, Eileen.
Oh, thanks.
Wonderful.
Very informative, Eileen. Thank you very much.
Well, you're all very welcome. My friends, it's been great to see you all, and hope to see you next month.
You will.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well, peace, be well.
Good night.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.